Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary Orchard and I, Mikah Sargent, have a great episode planned for you. It's all about travel. Yes, these are the apps you should use to plan your next trip on your iPhone, your iPad, and everything in between. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is iOS Today, episode 695, with Rosemary Orchard and Mikah Sargent, recorded Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, for Thursday, March 21st, 2024. Plan your next trip with these iPhone apps. Welcome back to iOS Today. This is the show where we talk all things iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, watchOS, HomePodOS, visionOS, and all of the OSs in between. There are lots of operating systems from Apple, and we do our best to help you make sense of them. Do our best to help you make the most of those devices you spend so much money on that you hopefully enjoy. That's what this show is all about. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I am Rosemary Orchard, and very excited, Mikah. I've got my suitcase. I'm ready to go. Where are we going?
Wait.
We should figure out a plan.
Yeah, before you leave, before you go, let's do this episode. So this is an episode about apps to help you plan your trips. And I think it pairs well with the episode that published last week that was all about list apps. Because, when you're thinking about traveling, it could be that you want to make sure you've got all of your ducks in a row for that. And so we will talk a little bit about some ways to keep track as you are getting ready for your trip. So without further ado, Rosemary, tell us about the very popular app. And it sounds like it's one that you use. And I'm going to talk about an alternative that isn't quite as powerful, but maybe for folks who don't necessarily want the big guy on campus.
Yeah. So I'm going to start by talking about TripIt. Now, some folks may have encountered TripIt for work purposes through its parent company Concur, or Concord, depending on how you pronounce it. But TripIt is it's a web-based service with iOS apps, including all the fancy widgets and everything, which allows you to basically take all the emails that you get about your reservations and all of that. So you've booked a flight, booked a hotel, etc. You forward all of that into TripIt, and then bam, it starts creating trips for you. So I can see here that I've got some trips planned. I can see that I've got various places where I might want to go. I can see that there are other people viewing it. I can also get a map view of my trip because I've got some things in there with addresses. It's taking a little moment to load the map, but there we go. If I zoom out enough, then I can see that is up in Birmingham. For example, when I go to add things to a trip, which I can do manually as well as magically by just forwarding the email to plans@tripit.com, then I can, specify, hey, I want to add a map, for example, of a particular address, or I want to add a ferry, or I want to add directions of how to get from here to here, for example. And you can also specify, as a side note, with those directions, you can specify they should be driving directions, walking directions, transit directions, or cycling directions. So if you would prefer to bicycle, then that is an option for you as well. And what I really love about this is it takes all of that stuff that you kind of just have floating around in 16 different emails, your confirmation number and stuff like that, and it just organizes it for you chronologically, and it deals with time zone changes too. So I can add a note here that says hello, and I can add that specifically to 6 p.m. Or 5 p.m. as it's selected on the Friday. Very simple. But then if I were to add an activity on, I don't know, say the Saturday, and I'll specify that the start date is the Saturday as well. And then I'll just call that World. I'm being very creative with my naming here. Then ta-da, it's put this in order. So I can see that the first thing is at 9 a.m. With some walking directions, then hello is at 5 p.m. and then World is at 12 on Saturday. And this makes it just really easy when you've got multiple different things to keep track of, especially if you're traveling to another time zone, knowing what day you land so that you've got accommodation for the right day. pretty important. I have nearly messed that one up a few times, only nearly, but it's not something you want to do. And then you can also do things like attach PDFs and photos to these various different entries. You can add details of your activity info, including like the website and the phone number and your booking information with a reference number and the website and things like that, so that later when you come back to this, it's got all of that information you need. And honestly, I do just really love the way that this works. I can forward a bunch of information, and then if it has got things which were maybe a couple of weeks apart or something, I can say, hey, no, I'm going to merge this into another existing trip that I already have, or I can merge it into a past trip. And I've been using TripIt for literally years. It will also do things like spot, hey, you're landing on Thursday, but you don't have a hotel until Friday. Do you want a hotel on Thursday night? And it'll say things like that and be like, you probably want to, you missed some accommodation here. Or you don't have travel between Osaka and Tokyo. Maybe you should have travel between Osaka and Tokyo. You can't walk. I mean, I'm sure you could, but it would take a very long time. They're quite far apart. There's a reason why Japan has bullet trains. But yes, this is TripIt. So TripIt is actually free to download. It's free for a whole bunch of the features, which is great. And then there is an optional annual subscription that you can pay for, which is $48.99. Though I will say, pro tip, folks, they do have like Black Friday sales and stuff every so often. So it's worth keeping an eye out for that if you are planning on trying this. And as with all things travel related, with subscriptions, if you don't travel all that much, see if there is a monthly subscription and start it like a couple of weeks before you go, like 3-4 weeks before you go, maybe at most. And then you can use the travel apps to plan your trip and get everything set up and just enjoy that one trip and save your cash for the next trip, where hopefully you can get some great deals.
Beautiful. I think TripIt is fantastic. One of the things that we've had this question before. Folks who've written in and they said, I think TripIt is great in terms of its functionality, but I'm a little concerned about giving an app all of my information and potential privacy implications, and what is the company doing, blah, blah, blah. And so we have in the past tried to look for alternatives that may be for some people a little bit more privacy minded. But when you are doing that, you need to understand that you're not going to get that deep level of functionality. TripIt has so many integrations with so many different services. It does that thing that Rosemary just talked about, where it's very aware, so it can say, hey, look, it looks like you don't have a hotel for whatever you're touching down. What are you going to do about it? It is a powerful app, and just like using something like Google Gmail or Google Drive or whatever it happens to be, understanding the trade-offs and making that choice is something that everybody should be able to do. And helpfully, if you're watching the show live as we're recording it, Scooter X has posted TripIt's privacy statement in the show notes for you to peruse. Not now, though, because I'm talking. No, I kid. But I wanted to offer an alternative app called Tripsy, Tripsy. And Tripsy is available for free. It has an in-app purchase for the pro version that gives you the ability to add more trips than just one. And it has some of the, or much of the base functionality of TripIt. It has calendar sync, it has flight alerts, flight details, it has the ability to forward your reservation information and have it pop up in the app. And back whenever we went to the podcast movement in August of 2023, I used Tripsy as my trip planning documentation, and it included the time whenever we were getting picked up, where we were planning to go, the flight information, where we were staying, all of that stuff. And I, at the time, paid for the pro version, which is, let me see, available for, I'm going to keep tapping the wrong thing there, which is available for $40 a year, so around the same price, $8 a month. Or if you're just taking a weekend trip, they have a weekly option of $3.99. So you could just pay $4 and have it, for that weekend. And that gives you the calendar sync, the ability to forward those reservations, all of the flight update stuff, those travel documents, and then also, as I mentioned, the ability to kind of save more than one trip at a time. Now, you'll notice that part of Tripsy includes the ability to sync with TripIt. So if you are a TripIt user and you want to sync with Tripsy because maybe you like how it looks visually or something, then that functionality is built in. It has Siri shortcuts as well, so that you can kind of look at your upcoming travel plans, get your hotel information, and I do like the built-in flight information so that you can go, oh, my gate has changed, or whatever that happens to be. So again, that's available to download for free, set up a trip in it if you'd like, and then in-app purchases for that extra functionality. Now, the most amazing app, I think, that I've used in a long time is the next one you're planning on mentioning. Anytime I have anything to do with an airplane, I am using Flighty, because Flighty is incredible. Also available to download for free with in-app purchases for more functionality. Our airplane, or I should say our travel guru, Johnny Jet, uses it. Leo Laporte uses it. Many of our listeners use it. I use it. Rosemary uses it. Many a flight flight employee, I guess I could say, anyone who kind of has some role in flying, many of them, Johnny Jet told us, use Flighty. It is incredible. Tell us about Flighty, Rosemary.
So Flighty is the flight tracking app, which intends to, and usually does, to be honest, conquer them all. So it has a lot of features built into it. Of course, you can track your flights. You can also, however, as well as tracking your own flights, you can also track your friends' flights. So if I knew that Mikah was on a plane and he was flying over from San Francisco, so I'm going to put in SFO, to London Heathrow, LHR, and maybe he's doing that tomorrow. Don't worry, folks at TWiT. He's not actually doing this, at least as far as I'm aware. I'm innocent in this. But there we go. I could say, hey, that looks like Mikah's flight. I know he's going to be on BA 284, and I can tap that and I can add that, and then I will be able to see this and see all of the information. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to scroll down and show you, hey, look, there it is. He's going to be flying on an Airbus A380, or he would be if he were flying. There is a detailed timetable here of gate departure, estimated taxi time, estimated takeoff time, or scheduled takeoff time as well. And then we've got our scheduled arrival time as well as estimates. And naturally, the closer this gets, the better it gets. But what I really love here, okay, is I said it was BA flight 284, right, folks? There's a BA section right here in the flight details, okay? So there's a phone button, a website button, a Twitter button, a Facebook button, so that you can go straight out if there's a problem with one of these things to specifically their website or their phone and get the help that you need. There's history on this route. So I have previously flown this exact route, folks. I flew 286 rather than 284, but almost the same flight. It's about 5,354 miles, give or take. I can also see an arrival forecast. I can see that it's a plus 7 hour time zone change, not plus 8 right now, folks, because we're in that odd interim period between the US going forward time-wise and the UK has not yet done that. I can also choose what alerts I get for friends' flights and things like that. So I can just say, hey, I want everything. I want all the details. I need to know exactly where Mikah is to the millimeter on the map. GPS isn't that accurate, but it's pretty close. Or I can get the basics, or I can just get the landed information, or I can get none of this information. And what I'm going to do, I'll just type in BA 254, because you can also add this by just typing in the flight number, and I'll specify this today. Or I would do, but that flight, of course, isn't flying today. So let me look for something from San Francisco to Heathrow today. There we go. There's a flight taking off in 3 hours and 30 minutes. Perfect. So now I've got a bit more information. I can see that it's departing from gate G3. And it's currently going to be on time. It's going to land in 14 hours and 3 minutes, give or take. It's only like 25% of the time. average of 29 minutes delay. And then here is that plane information. And this is a United flight. So I can see, I've got access to their phone details and everything like that. And I can also share a flight and include it in live activities, which means that it is not showing up because, of course, I'm in my podcasting focus mode, but it would pop up on my home screen there. Now, of course, there's other information as well. You can get your Flighty passport. I've flown a few flights, Mikah. Apparently, I've spent like 24 days and 3 hours on planes. As a note, folks, I used to fly for a living. Like I literally traveled for a job. So that is perhaps a little more than most people might have. But I can see my lovely little Flighty passport here. I could specify just for 2023. Didn't fly all that much last year. And it's got all of my information down there, how many flights I've taken, and so on and so forth. Apparently, I've been to the moon once and 9.6 times around the Earth. I really need to stop spending so much time on planes. And my longest flight was Vienna to Los Angeles, 12 hours and 29 minutes. And that was a really fast flight because the plane was basically empty. It was brilliant. I had like 3 whole rows in economy to myself. It was not worth paying for the upgrade that time at all. So I'm glad I didn't. But there we go. You can get all of your statistics. And we mentioned TripIt at the top of the show. Mikah mentioned Tripsy can import from TripIt. Flighty can import from TripIt as well. So if you've got all that data in other apps, TripIt has kind of accidentally become a standard by which to sync everything, it seems. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's worth investigating the free account option at any rate. You can also add Flighty friends, and you can specify various other things. How do you want your widgets to look, lock screen widgets, app icons. It can sync to your calendar. You can forward your flights via email. And there is an Apple Watch app, which is a recent addition to the Flighty app itself. So if you've got the Flighty app, you've never tried the Apple Watch app before, you may want to give that a go.
And yes, Flighty, I can't say it enough. It's fantastic. Tell us about Wanderlog. That is one I actually have not heard of before.
So Wanderlog solves a problem that I have been playing with for a little while now, because I would like to plan theoretical trips. I know when I am planning on going on a trip, approximately, give or take, and I would like, I've just messed that up, unfortunately. I will need to fix that in a moment. But here we go. So I have Wanderlog, and what I like about Wanderlog is it's kind of a bit like Tripsy and TripIt in some ways, but I can create a trip plan and the dates are optional. Okay, so I can actually just say that I would like to go to Japan, for example, and I've just specified the country. Can invite trip mates. I can set this to be a public trip, private trip, or share it with my friends. I'll set it to private, and I'm going to start planning. And I will invite my trip mates later. And then I can go ahead and add things. So I could add checklists, I can add places, I can add trains, notes, etc. And what I really love here is when I add something, so say I add a place and say I add the Shibuya crossing. I've spelled that wrong, I believe. There we go. I'll just add Shibuya for the time being. So there we go. I've added Shibuya. Perfect. It's pulled in a bunch of information about that because this is a place it recognizes as a thing, and that's one of my places to visit. But when I add things like this, then usually there is the option that is hiding from me at this very moment in time to add a budget for it, because there it is, add cost. It was right there in front of my face. And so I can change the currency. So in Japan, they use the Japanese yen, and I can categorize this, and I can pay for it myself, or I can split it with other people. I can suggest a date, then I might want to do this. So I'm going to fast forward into April next year, and I'll put it in for April 2nd. And I can specify, I don't know, 500 yen. Shibuya crossing it's a giant crosswalk, folks. It's free, but I can pop that in, and then as I build my trip plan, I can see my overall budget and how much the things that I'm putting on there are likely to cost me, which is really helpful when you are trying to plan something that you don't necessarily know how long you want to spend away, but you know that you want to visit these things. Okay, well, I've got these things planned. They're going to cost me this much, which leaves me that much of my budget left, or I need to save at least this much extra to be able to cover incidentals and so on. And I feel like this is just a really helpful feature that is not in a lot of apps. A lot of apps have got things like, oh, hey, like, I'm going to plan this. I'm going on these dates. This exists. But there is not necessarily a way to just build. And there's also a magic wand option. So what I can do is use their AI assistant, which is free for 5 messages. And then after that, it's part of their subscription option to find out best places to eat in Japan. 3-day itinerary to Japan. 3 days. Okay, I need a time machine if I'm going to Japan for 3 days, because I'm going to need to live each of these days like 7 times. Top attractions in Japan, and so on. There's, the ability to have a map view of everything. And yes, I should have not dismissed that. There's also the option to view this without, keep this offline, to make this map available offline for you, so that you can, not have to use your internet when you don't necessarily have roaming enabled. And yeah, Wanderlog, it's free to download and try out, and most of the features are available for free. It's when you get to some of the more fancy features, like sharing with friends and so on, that it has a subscription option for you. So definitely worth giving it a look if you would like to do some more travel planning.
Nice. Now, I have a habit of creating... I get out a piece of grid paper and I create a little kind of table of the dates for which I will be traveling. And I will then sort of set up the Monday, Tuesday, whatever it happens to be. And I will put in things like socks and undershirts and other shirt, and then pants, and then I'll kind of calculate it, and I'll have this whole little written out piece of paper that has my packing essentials. But that's very much something that is, I think it's to manage my own anxiety about making sure that I have things. But there are simpler and arguably better ways to go about making sure that you have everything that you need for your trip packed. And even better, Rosemary, as you've pointed out, to make sure that when you leave your trip, you've brought everything with you to go back home.
Yep.
So tell us about the last app on the list here for travel planning.
Yeah. So I am cheating a little bit, folks. We talked about this app last week in our list section. It's Packr, Packr. And so Packr is a planning app for packing. It's not just for packing though, folks, because it's also a little bit of, hey, don't forget, you need a hotel reservation. Did you check entry requirements for the country that you're flying to? Things like that. So I can go ahead and add my next trip here. It does single or multi-destination trips. So I'm going to pick doing a week-long trip at the end of March. I can specify if it's for business or leisure. And then where do I want to go? I think I'm going to go to London. A week in London is probably going to be quite exhausting, but I will somehow survive. Now I can choose my accommodation type. So am I staying in a hotel? Is it more of a rental situation, perhaps like an Airbnb? Am I staying with friends or family? Is it a second home? Am I camping? Or am I on a cruise? I'm going to specify that I'm staying in a hotel. Transportation, I'll take the train because it's not that far. It's like an hour and a half for me. Essentials. Now, I don't think London is known for its beaches. I only live an hour and a half away, but somehow London beaches don't seem like a thing to me. Photography, on the other hand, yes, I feel like photography is probably quite useful, and there's definitely going to be at least one formal dinner. Now, I can also choose that I am going to be able to do laundry, if I am going to be able to do laundry. And there's 2 other sections here. There's a to-do list, and there's also baby. So if you've got a baby and you're taking your baby with you on your trip, then you can add the baby option as well. I tap create, and I don't have to go and input all of the various different things into my packing list. Oh, no. It does it for me. So my clothes contain things like a belt and dress and so on. I should note, when I set this app up, it asked me how I identified, and I chose female, which is why it's suggesting things like dresses and skirts and things like that. And then it's also suggested numbers. Okay, so it's got socks, 4, underwear, 4, things like that on the right-hand side. Face masks, 8, feminine hygiene products, iPhone. You'll note that there isn't more than one iPhone. It hasn't even specified one iPhone, just that you want your iPhone. And then it's got for my formal dinner, a dress and an evening bag and high heels and a makeup bag, shirt, shoe polish, that sort of thing. For my hotel, it's got my swimsuit, photography, batteries, battery charger, camera bag. Under my to-do list, book the hotel, close the window, close all of your gas and water faucets, empty your camera memory cards, reduce your thermostat, unplug electrical devices, water the plants, and so on. Folks who were watching the last episode might note that it didn't tell me to water the plants because I was gone for a one-night trip. This time I put in a whole week, and so it's added things dynamically based on how long I'm going to be gone for. It's also got toiletries, including things like Band-Aids and makeup remover, stuff like that. And then for the train, it's suggesting I might want to book face masks, train tickets, and a water bottle. Also has options for nearby attractions, so the London Eye, a Westminster to Greenwich Thames cruise and things like that, and so on. And this, honestly, is just a really great foundation for a packing list. Even if you don't subscribe and all you do is you use this to create a list, and then you use the print and share option to share it. And you can actually share it. I'll just pop it into drafts, and it actually outputs it as a list. So you can then copy that and paste that into something else if you want to. If you pay for the subscription, then you can actually share your list with folks. So if you are traveling with somebody else, then you can share your list with them. You could theoretically share it with anybody. Probably want to limit it to the people that you're traveling with. But this is just a really nice little way to get the information. It's got weather at the top as well, so that you can see the weather. I can only see one day of the weather because I've got the free version right now, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that is available in the Pro app, including customization of the lists too. So there's plenty of options there to explore. But I feel like this is a really useful little app to just add to your travel, folder or system, whatever it is that you have for traveling. Because, I find the way of building a packing list is, it's a lot of fun building a packing list, but then there's stress if you forget things like, you pack your camera, but you forget to pack the charger for the battery, or you don't empty the memory card first, and then you can't remember if you've got things off the memory card.
Did I back
stuff
it up,
like that.
or am I going to need? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's nice to have something that's just like, hey, this is probably stuff you wanted to do. Yeah, go do that.
Or the one device I have that requires a USB micro, and everything else is USB-C, and now I've got to go to some store and find a USB micro cord. Yeah, that's frustrating.
I'm going to give you a little bonus tip, Mikah. I bought a couple of USB-C to micro USB adapters off of Amazon, which they can attach to a keychain or whatever. I've attached them to the zip on the bags that I use for putting tech stuff in when I travel, so that then I'm always going to have a micro USB with me, even if I've only brought USB-C cables.
No matter what, you've got it. That is very clever. So there you go. There's a pro tip for you. If you have an app that you like to use for travel that we did not have on the list, let us know. iOS Today at twit.tv for your favorite travel apps. Moving on to the news, Apple, of course, is regularly releasing, or developers, I should say, are regularly releasing new apps on Apple Arcade, new games on Apple Arcade. Apple Arcade is, of course, the gaming service from Apple. It's a subscription service that gives you the ability to play loads of different games that are ad-free. They don't require access to any kind of online system in order to play, although some of them have functionality that sort of improves upon it. And now they've started to feature games that are available for Apple Vision Pro. So those two have made it. Crossy Road Castle is a new game for Apple Arcade, and you use hand gestures. You cooperatively climb an endlessly spinning tower as high as you can with up to 4 friends across different Apple devices, and it uses hand gestures to kind of move about the system. There's also a game called Solitaire Stories, and this too offers a 3D system where you can kind of set up a card table wherever you happen to be so that you can play solitaire, which in this case I think is great because Apple Vision Pro is, of course, a very solitary experience. So solitaire is perfect for this solitary experience. There will also be new games including Puyo Puyo Puzzle Pop. Wow, say that 5 times fast. A game called Super Monsters Ate My Condo Plus. That's anytime there's a plus after, it means that there is a version of the app in the App Store as well that often does have kind of free-to-play mechanics and other cruft, frankly. And when it comes to Apple Arcade and is available as part of your Apple Arcade subscription, they just tack a plus on the end. So Super Monsters Ate My Condo Plus is just Super Monsters Ate My Condo. Sego Mini Trips, that is a preschool game, and so it's available to for kids in theory who are learning. And then they also talk about the game called Game Room, which is already available, but I think it might have new games that are coming. TWiT is a game that is available as of March, and in April they will add checkers. And with that, you can see, if you are watching, but I'll describe if you're listening, a marble green checkers board sitting on a table. It is, of course, augmented reality, and it appears as if it's sitting on the table, and you and another person can play checkers back and forth. When I had the Apple Vision Pro, I played a card game with Anthony Nielsen of TWiT, as well as Matthew Casanelli, former co-host of Smart Tech Today here on TWiT. We played a card game from Game Room, and the three of us were able to appear as if we were sitting across from the table from one another because we had a FaceTime call going at the same time as we were playing the game. So you can launch FaceTime, have that going, and it does appear as if you're playing the game. So those are some new games that are either coming out, have just launched, or again, will be out soon. And then I also wanted to mention, there's an interesting article from Business Insider. So take that as you will, but it's talking about Apple getting some new executives from some big TV companies, including NBC Universal. Joseph Caddy is a 14-year NBC Universal exec and is only one of several that the company has brought into the fold who are in ad tech at the companies they left. It is rumored that Apple is expected to, much like other streamers, add an ad-supported, so that's ADD ad, and AD supported version of Apple TV Plus to its services, and that it will provide this kind of discounted option. The folks include Jason Broom, who joined the team in June, used to work at Xandr, DirecTV, NBC Universal, Chandler Taylor, who worked at Peacock, and Jacqueline Bleasy, who worked at FanDuel. And in all of these cases, it was some sort of ad or ad tech role. So we shall see if Apple TV Plus adds an ad tier in the future, brings on an ad tier in the future. That's something to keep an eye on.
Plus is an ad tier, perhaps.
Yeah, so plus is an ad tier. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I have to say, though, there is a lot of really great content on Apple TV, and I'm personally really enjoying my subscription to it. I watched Lessons in Chemistry recently, and it was fabulous. So, yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff there. I'm glad that they are delivering good quality stuff, not just bottom of the barrel. We got somebody who can just about speak English and read a line stuff.
Yeah, me too. And I like that they've started to add content that's been out for a while. Oh, yeah, I just said add again. They've started to include content that's been out for a while. Saving Private Ryan is on Apple TV Plus for a limited time, for example. And we just watched the Kill Bill. I guess it's not a trilogy, it's a duology. What do you call two movies? Duology? Whatever that is. That were temporarily on Apple TV Plus as well. All right, folks, I can hear the music. It's time for Shortcuts Corner. Welcome back to Shortcuts Corner, the part of the show where you write in with your shortcuts requests, and Rosemary Orchard, our shortcuts expert, provides a response. This Shortcuts Corner request comes in from Stefan, who writes, "Hey, I travel a lot, and to avoid roaming data cost, I turn data off when I fly to another country. It would be helpful if there could be a shortcut to do this, as some I will keep on, but most of the time I would toggle off, and this is a lot of work per..." Oh, I see. So Stefan wants to be able to kind of choose to turn this on and off a little bit simpler, because right now Stefan is kind of turning it off per app. And to have to do it per app is a little bit troublesome. And Stefan says, love the show. So it almost sounds like, if I can read between the lines, Stefan is wondering if it's possible to more easily toggle off data for specific apps when they are traveling. And this is Stefan in Sweden.
Yeah, and so I'm going to start with not using shortcuts for this because it is a little tricky to do in shortcuts. I'm just going to remind folks, if you go into settings, okay, and then you go into your mobile service option, okay, so that's the one under Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. I'm aware that the name varies in a couple of different countries. There is an option, so there's mobile data overall, which you can just turn on and off. And then there's mobile data options where you can just toggle off data roaming, and that will just turn off data roaming. Full stop. So that means that your phone is not going to be using roaming at all unless you connect to, well, you'll have to connect to Wi-Fi or similar whilst you're out of the country. And this can be a really simple way of dealing with the problem, because a lot of the time you don't necessarily need data at all. And I found that another little bonus trick, if you need to turn your data on for something, turn on low battery mode first before turning on data roaming, because if you turn on low battery mode, then it will do things like stop updates in mail that happen in the background and things like that, which means that apps who are trying to do things in the background won't be running and therefore won't get access to data because they've been suppressed in order to preserve your battery life. So if you need to turn on data roaming when you're traveling, then you can turn that down. Now, I presume that Stefan is talking about the various toggles here. So, for example, if I wanted to turn off the toggle for the App Store, then that is something that I can do. I should know, I haven't reset these statistics in a really long time. So if anyone's going, wow, 180 gigabytes by a personal hotspot, that's like 5 iPhones worth there. But there is a little bit of a problem, and I'm just going to pop into my iOS Today demo folder so that I don't end up with thousands of shortcuts here. And that is because inside of shortcuts, adding roaming, I can set data roaming on or off for, my phone in general, which, that's fine. And I can toggle it, but there is no way to control it per app inside of shortcuts. So I feel like what the solution to this problem is probably going to be is to create a shortcut which actually turns on low power mode for you, and then set low power mode, turn that on, and then turn on roaming. So is that going to come up? No, it's not. It's hiding from me. Of course it is. So that you can use roaming wherever the action has gone. It was there just now, and now it's gone into hiding from me. So I can set my data roaming. There's also an action here that I can use to reset my mobile statistics. Maybe I should use a shortcuts automation for that. So yeah, it says set data roaming, so I can turn that on. There's also the option for turning on data in general, so that you can set your mobile data to be on or off globally. So if you don't have a lot of data on your plan in your home country, you can use shortcuts to turn mobile data off. And then there is one more thing that I wanted to mention, which has gone to hiding, which is choosing your line and toggling your mobile plan. So if you do pick up a SIM card while you are traveling and put it into your phone, assuming that your phone has one, or you use something like Airolo, AIROLO, to buy a travel plan, then you can choose your data plan to turn that and then turn that on. But what I would recommend for Stefan is use low power mode to avoid apps running in the background from accessing data, and also using up your battery. You're traveling, you want to keep your battery if you're using your phone as a camera and for maps and things, and then using the action to turn data roaming on for your mobile plan, and then flip it around and turn low power mode off and turn data roaming off when you're done, or just turn data roaming off and leave low power mode on. I usually find that that's a nice way. It's a nice little bonus of doing travel. I live in low power mode when I'm on the road, and that means that I don't get so many mail notifications and stuff like that as well, because it will only go in when I check for it. So yeah, unfortunately, you can't toggle data roaming for individual apps, but you can, or you can't toggle mobile data for individual apps, but you can turn off data roaming as a global, and then just turn it on when you need it and use low power mode to limit it to the currently active apps.
Low power mode when I'm on the road. I dig it. Stefan, I hope that answers, well, I know it answers your question, and thank you for writing in. With that, we have reached the end of this episode of iOS Today, if you can believe it. If you have questions, comments, concerns, send those to iostoday@twit.tv. I mentioned last episode, and I want to remind everybody, we are opening up the gates to questions outside of just shortcuts again. So if you have a question like, what case should I buy for my iPhone? Or how come my Apple TV keeps cutting out when I'm watching a show, or something like that. Anything related to what we talk about on the show that isn't necessarily shortcuts related, we are happy to take those questions again. Those all go to iostoday@twit.tv. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow along with you and stay up with what you're doing, where should they go to do so?
Well, the best place to go is rosemaryorchard.com, which has got links to podcasts, apps, books, and so on, plus all the social media sites. And you can also find me in the Club TWiT Discord. I'm usually hanging out in the live chat during the show and enjoying some of the posts that folks put in the iOS Today forum after the show, because somebody was asking a question earlier, Mikah, about moving the period key. So I think we might need to talk about that on our next episode of the show.
Moving the period key. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, keyboard problems.
Okay, keyboard probs. If you would like to get in touch with me, I'm at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Thank you all for tuning in. If you out there are listening to the audio-only version of the show in the public, then I want to tell you there's a great version of the show that you could have access to. It's video, and I'm pointing at you, and you wouldn't see that unless you're actually able to watch. How do you see me point at you? By joining Club TWiT at twit.tv/clubtwit. When you join the club, $7 a month, $84 a year, you get access to not just the video version of this show, you also get access to the video version of the other Club TWiT shows. Those are exclusive shows, hands on Mac, hands on Windows, Home Theater Geeks, all of those, you'll get to see the video as well. On top of that, you get every single TWiT show with no ads. It's just the content. You also gain access to the TWiT Plus bonus feed that has extra stuff you won't find anywhere else, behind the scenes, before the show, after the show, special Club TWiT events like our Escape Room in a Box, as well as the members-only Discord server. A fun place to go to chat with your fellow Club TWiT members and also those of us here at TWiT. Rosemary is very active in the Club TWiT Discord, so if you want to be able to chat with her, that is one way to make that happen. Again, twit.tv/Club TWiT. And now, we must say goodbye for another episode of iOS Today. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.